Hello. So I've just got started replacing the circuit board on my Goodman two-stage furnace. I don't have a lot of room here, so I'm kind of working around my workbench. But I thought I'd take a video of the procedure. Hopefully it works. I'm not sure that's what the problem is. But I did have a power surge during our latest winter storms. We had pretty severe ice storms out here in Oregon, and they bumped up a couple of times pretty hard. And then after those bumps and the power went out, the furnace the fan would come on, not the induction fan, but the main fan, blower fan, and but it wouldn't light. So I checked to see if it was the high limit switch, but it appears that it's not getting any voltage to that switch, even though the board light is indicating that's what the fault is. So I'm assuming that maybe the surge created an issue with the board. I had a little flare out on the board a few years back, but it didn't seem to affect anything. So I ordered a new board, but I didn't replace it. So I had an extra board, which is kind of handy. So I'll just swap this one out and then see if it's a problem. If it's not, then I'll have a new board in there, and I'll have to keep searching. But I have a fairly good feeling that it probably is. So I don't have a camera stand, so I'm going to do this in little segments, but this is where I've come to so far. I just got to thinking I'd video this for posterity. So I just removed the board from the little clips, and there was actually someone that posted on YouTube some time ago about how to get that board off easily, and it worked pretty slick. So I'm going to come over here and get my little tool. So this is what the suggestion was just to use a little ballpoint pen and then remove the filler, and which leaves you the empty carcass there, and that little hole there fits the little tabs for the circuit board just perfectly. So it's got a little bit of a trick to it, but not too bad. And so when the board is up here in place and sitting over the tab, I don't really want to put it back on, but what you do is this will go right over that little section. You push and kind of pull at the same time, and that you have to push with some effort, and that will collapse those little catches, and then you can pull the board out. And so it worked pretty slick, and prevents me from possibly breaking the board. So from here, I'm going to start unplugging the wires. So I've taken photographs and videos of all the wires, and I'm going to take the plugged wires out first, and then I'm going to swap I think if I can, I'm going to swap the low voltage wires up top here one for one as I go. So I'm not sure if that's the proper way to do it, but it's the way I'm going to do it, and we'll see what happens. So I got the two smaller wires disconnected. I thought they were different colors, and maybe they are, but just to be sure, I'm going to mark with tape the one up above here with yellow tape to indicate it's the top wire in that section there. With a little pry of the screwdriver on the inside of these tabs to lift and clear a little lip there on the block, the wiring block there. It came out with not too much trouble. Just had to put a little effort to it, but not too badly. Like I said, I couldn't do it unless I pried a little bit with the screwdriver. Once I did that, it slid right off. There are three wires that are inserted up above the smaller block there, and let's see if I can get a better look at it here. Actually helps me to take the video because I can see what I'm doing. So it looks like the red one's on top, and then there's maybe one that doesn't have a insulator, and then a clear pad on the bottom, and then at the very bottom there's another red plugged in. So I'm going to again mark the very top one with a yellow piece of tape, just so I can be sure that, in fact, I might use a different color piece of tape, just so I don't get confused here. And just to be sure we get everything back together the way it's supposed to go. So I marked that with green tape, but those two female sections there were piggybacked, so I really didn't need to do that, but it's fine, and I'll easily identify which where those two go. And then I have the last two wires that I will remove now. So the last of the wires plugging into the control board are this one here, and so it looks like I'll just have to do a little pry with the screwdriver again, and it should pop right off. It's considerably smaller than the previous block, and it should come off pretty easy. And then I will tackle switching the color-coded wires at top, which I think it will be a little easier access for me. Like I said, I'm kind of stretched over my workbench right now, but I think I can pull that out a little closer to me once I clear the board of the last plug there. So I was correct, that came off quite easily. I didn't have to use pliers or anything, just pinched it and pulled right off, and now I have pretty easy access to my low voltage wires there. And I'm going to get the other circuit board. I'm going to be sure that I ground myself before I grab it, and I'm probably going to maybe put a little bubble wrap over this board, because I'll kind of be operating on top of it, just so I don't do any damage to either one, to the new board anyway. So so I'm off to get the new board. So this is the old board, and if I recall, it actually had a slightly different model number than the one that I have, but I think I ordered it from Supply House, and I emailed them, and they said that was the correct part number. I think it was a slightly upgraded board or something like that, and all of the connectors match up, so I'm fairly confident that that's not going to be a problem at all. And so I'll come over here and give you a little shot of the new board, which is right here. And that little bubble wrap underneath there, I'm going to just wrap and tape around the old board, so I can kind of set it against there as I start swapping out the wires. I suppose it would be easy enough just to take all the wires off and then reinstall them. I have plenty of photographs and whatnot, but for whatever reason, I feel a little more confident if I just swap one for one. So that's what I'm going to plan on doing, unless it doesn't work out, then I'll do it the other way. So here I go. And I'm going to go ahead and get a little, I want to make sure that I don't knock this off or something. So I'm going to put it in a little safer place over here, and then we'll get started. So using my photos as a guide, I've got everything plugged back in, and I'm fairly confident everything is where it's supposed to be. Referred back to my photos many times. Committed most stuff to memory, but my memory is not what it used to be, so I just double-checked everything as I was putting back together. So the last thing will be to put the board up on the clips, and I'm going to, normally I would, well, maybe I will, I'm not sure. I think I probably will. I was going to say I was going to put the cover back on in order to get this switch down. I'll probably just use a clip. But if it's not the board, I don't know what it is, and I'll probably have to call a guy. So we'll just see what happens. But I'll get it clipped up and get power to it and see if she'll fire up. Well, I'm still getting 4 flashing lights, so this is very disappointing. And I will check the high switch again. But last time I didn't believe I had power going to it, but so I'm going to check that and I'll get back to you. So I'm back at the furnace today. Gave it a couple of days to give it some further thought and do a little bit more research. I pulled out the installation manual, which I've kind of referred to along the way, but had kind of been relying more on YouTube tutorials to kind of try to diagnose the issue. As I mentioned earlier, the furnace quit firing. It just had the blower fan going. But it wouldn't fire, and this was immediately after a power surge. And so my assumption was that the surge probably cooked some component within the unit, but I really didn't know what component. And so as mentioned earlier, I actually replaced the circuit board, thinking that because it was an electronic component that perhaps that was the issue. But testing really didn't prove that to be the case. But I had an extra circuit board because of a previous issue that turned out to not to be the circuit board. So I just installed it just as just part of the elimination process, and it was one of the first things I did. And obviously the same issue, the exact same issue was present after I installed the board, so I knew that that wasn't the issue. I gave it more thought and then looked through the installation manual and noted a reference to some auxiliary limit switches. So it actually mentioned one, but I went to the schematic and I noted that it showed actually 2 limit switches, and they appear to be, according to the schematic, somewhere by the squirrel cage air box area towards the back of the furnace. For me, that's not very good news because the access is so limited on this particular furnace. But I'm going to first see if I can locate these switches, and then I'll have a better idea whether I'll be able to access them or not easily. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be easy, but I'm hoping that maybe there'll be some way to access them. Another thing I noted as I was looking up auxiliary switches for the Goodman furnace was that I found them on Amazon, and they look like and according to the schematic as well, they look like they're manual push-button reset switches, which would be good news, and they're exterior buttons, so it should be fairly straightforward to reset them if that happens to be the issue. In fact, if that's not the issue, then I'm totally at a loss. I noticed that auxiliary switches were actually upstream of all the other electronics, and so, which I thought was a little odd. I'm an amateur, but I would have thought the primary switch would have, or a limit switch would have been the first to kick, and then the auxiliaries, just by their title, would be the sort of the secondary. But according to the schematic, that doesn't look to be the case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick my, I'm going to maybe put my cell phone on a selfie stick or something, and see if I can video the back of that fan and see if I can locate the switches, and if I can locate the switches, see if I can figure out a way of resetting them both, and really hoping for the best. So I'm going to get to it, and we'll see what happens, and I'll report back the results. Well, I somehow managed to shut the video off while I was taking a video, but as I was saying, on the left auxiliary limit switch, which, like I say, is way back here, almost can make it out if you see it, but I felt a little bit of a just a little ping, I guess, or a little tick when I pressed it. So I've got the power back on to the unit, and I'm going to hit the door switch here. And this will be, I don't know if it's going to work, and so we'll all be the first to see if it works or not. So there's power to the board again, and normally this takes several seconds, if sometimes several minutes, to get rolling here. So if when it does start rolling, if that flashing light comes back on, then I'll know that that's not the issue either, almost immediately. So I'm just waiting here with anxious anticipation to see what's going to happen. If it's not those auxiliary switches, honestly, I just don't know what it could be. And I'm probably going to have to call a guy. Like I say, power to the board. The fault code is for the limit switches, so it would make sense if it was, and I suppose one of the two of those auxiliary switches could be faulty, though on a manual reset I wouldn't think that would be an issue, but I guess we're just going to find out here in a second or two what's going to happen. It kind of, I think, goes through some sort of self-diagnostic first, and normally it takes a little bit of time to get rolling. But what it's been doing in the past is even though the inducer fan does kick on, well, this is actually a very good sign because the light's not flashing. And so now we wait and see if we get a little bit of heat to our igniter. And there it comes on. And boom! Well, this is very good news, and I'm not so hot at taking videos, and like I said, I didn't have a stand, but I thought that'd be worth taking a video to see if I could determine what the problem was. I'm sure I saved myself a ton of money by going through all these different steps, and believe me, if I could do it, just about anybody could do it. So good news, I'm going to go out and celebrate now.